Welcome back to my channel. This week, once again, there are a lot of developments regarding Brexit. Today I want to talk about the letter Boris Johnson sent to Donald Tusk, the President of the European Council, and a copy to Jean-Claude Juncker, the President of the European Commission. He is, at least until Ursula von der Leyen will take over later this year. Boris Johnson did this right before visiting our Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron. That fact I will comment later, but let me get started with the letter. It was a 4-page letter, but you can summarize it quite quickly. The main part was that the backstop, which was part of the withdrawal agreement, can't happen with him. The only thing about this, he says in his letter, is that there has to be an alternative for the backstop to have no border, but once again he's not saying how he can do it. The technical solution that's always been mentioned is not available yet, and so he still is not saying how else does he want to do this except the backstop or having a border again. The only idea he really states in this letter is that skip the backstop, skip checks at the border, and just trust each other. Sorry guys, but that's not how our world works. If the UK is not part of the EU anymore, and that is the outside border of the EU, of course the EU has to check its borders and has to control what is coming into the EU. It won't just work with trust. The worst part of this letter is he's not really giving any real alternative how it can be done except this trust stuff, which is I don't really have the English words to say this and still be able to publish that on YouTube. That is sheer nonsense to think something like that. If the EU would follow this trust idea, it would just undermine every rule they put up for themselves. And of course this will never happen. And I'm quite sure London and Downing Street do know this very well, and so even the BBC doesn't believe that they really want to negotiate about this part, and or really want to talk about any alternatives, because they have not the slightest clue how alternatives could be. So everybody in the EU at the moment believes that this is just a publicity stunt, just to, as some Chinese would say, to keep their faces. There is no real will to negotiate any alternative there. From an outside view and from a European Union view, this letter just shows one thing. The ultimate goal of the Johnson government is a no deal. That's something indeed we can accept, but the EU is really at the point where they say, if you want a no deal, have a no deal, but stop pretending otherwise, especially with publicity stunts like this. That is why Donald Tusk, the President of the European Council, reacted quite harshly on this letter on Twitter. For once I will read out this as a quote, because it's important to have it completely, and that's what we're going to do now. That's what Donald Tusk wrote on Twitter. The backstop is an insurance to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland, unless and until an alternative is found. Those against the backstop and not proposing realistic alternatives, in fact, support re-establishing a border, even if they do not admit it. That, I think, is quite a clear answer from the European Union. And they also reacted on another thing that Boris Johnson had said, that the backstop would undermine the Good Friday Agreement. I talked about this in my last video. The Good Friday Agreement demands an open border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. the backstop would provide this. Whatever you, if ever you want the backstop or not, but the backstop would guarantee an open border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. With all the other parts of the backstop you hate or you don't want, you can't deny that. You do know my opinion about Brexit already, and about what should happen now. Even if I'm absolutely convinced now that the UK has to leave the European Union for the sake of the European Union, there are quite some things that are hard to bear that are coming from Westminster and from London at the moment. Another example of this game is Boris Johnson visiting Chancellor Angela Merkel and President Emmanuel Macron. For weeks Boris Johnson said he's not meeting either of them as long as they don't agree to his terms for a new deal in advance. That was, for example, taking the backstop out. None of them agreed to this, and none of them will agree to his terms, but still now he's meeting them. So another episode of a very confusing show. Why doesn't he just say he wants a no-deal Brexit and gets on with it and tries to survive the no-confidence vote in Parliament in September? But these are games that no one is buying anymore. This was one development of this week, and there were some more, and I will talk about this in other videos, like the speech of Jeremy Corbyn about the way he intends to go on that he held in Corby, or Operation Yellowhammer. But I don't want this video to be too long, so I'll just separate it this time. For now, that's it. If you want to stay informed, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you will be informed as soon as I uploaded another video. But for now, I just say have a nice evening and goodbye.